Welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. I have on Zoom with me right now Bobby Heckman, and he is the director and the writer of Victim No More. Hey, Bobby, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I just want to just let you know though, we're not doing Victim No More anymore. We changed the whole production. We're gonna go a different way with it. We're gonna do instead a Teen Wolf fan film. Um, with instead of Scott Howard, it'll be the cast of Facts of Life as teenagers all turning into werewolves. And it'll be. I think it's going to be. I think it's.
I think that'll be cool.
I think it'd be cool. I think everybody's going to look forward to this, and Friday 13th fans may not like that.
Exactly.
But yeah.
But who's Jason, right? Who's Jason?
Yeah, who's Jason really anyway? He's just
Absolutely.
He's Teen Wolf's dad. That's the fan film.
Exactly. So those familiar with Victim No More, those unfamiliar with Victim No More, explain to the masses what this film is about. Like, what is Victim No More?
You know what? First off, I'm very happy that this is probably my last podcast interview, like before we start shooting,
right.
And probably the last time I need to like talk about the synopsis again.
Right. It does get very dreadful.
I'm not big on like promoting. I mean, I should of course be promoting on all social media about the film and everything. But like, oh my God, you get tired of yourself like talking about it.
I know that personally, so I do understand where you're
coming. You know exactly what I'm talking about. How many times have you had to talk about 72 already, or
yeah, 72, Samhain, all of that stuff. I guess every interview, every time somebody asks you what it's about in public, and like it really does get dreadful.
Yeah, because you hear yourself saying the exact same thing over and over again, and then you start wondering. Like, man, I sound full of myself talking about the same thing over and over again. Yeah, I know that's probably not the way it sounds to other people, but that's the way it sounds to me. So anyway, Victim No More. It's about a child of a former Jason survivor from one of the past films, who feels like he's very paranoid in his life, that his parents are very overprotective of him because of the trauma that they went through in the past. So he feels like he wants to help his family and help himself by journeying to Camp Crystal Lake to prove that Jason is no longer around. He's been dead for years. That, if he could prove to his family that Jason is no longer around, then maybe that'll help them move on from their lives, and maybe he won't feel so smothered in his,
right?
That everybody's kind of like looking out for him, and that's basically the gist of it. Of course, things aren't going to go the way he expects, because this is a Friday 13th fan film, and a fan film without particular characters and things wouldn't be a fan film at all. It would just be a drama about a kid going to an empty campsite where nothing happens, and we don't want that,
right. So this kid is when we see the movie, will we know who this person is from the franchise?
In a way, I tried to be more subtle with it.
Okay.
I'm not like, sorry, somebody's mowing the lawn. Can you hear that actually?
I can actually.
Oh, all right. I'm going to close the window just in case, though. It gets
no problem.
My window.
Yep, not a problem.
Okay, sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Yes, I try to be more subtle in revealing who he is and which, like, I mean, what I'm going for throughout the entire film is more the obscure references and subtlety, you know, as far, not so much the in your face like references
Right.
of Friday 13th movies. I mean, like the hardcore fans will get the little things here and there. And I just kind of, I appreciate that more. And this is just me. I appreciate that more than the in your face, like references that it's like, oh, this is obviously from part 6. This is obviously a part 4 reference, you know, because they're saying the same dialogue or they're, you know, doing the same camera move or something like that, you know?
Absolutely. So, without giving anything away about this, the kid from the Friday the 13th, that would be, I guess, the main person of the movie. Is he gonna be? Is the actual actor gonna be reprising the role? Can't you say?
You mean the main? Oh, you mean like, will there be a sequel to this?
No, like you said that the character coming is probably going to be is like from Friday the 13th. So will the actor?
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, he's the child of one of the characters from the other.
Oh, I got you. Okay, that makes sense.
So his name is Robbie, and you know, it'll be revealed like who he is like later on in the film. So, and the fans will get it, you know. It might not click right away when he says his last name or anything, but like, you know, the fans will realize it. All I have to say is keep watching till after the credits. That's what I have to say.
Awesome. And
I'm a big influence on like Marvel films and everything. So like I might have a mid-credit sequence and a post-credit sequence. So it's just like, you know, so you can get all the information you need.
Right. And I'm assuming then we will, like, when it's revealed like who his parents are, we're gonna see the actual parent.
Yeah. Well, no, you won't actually see the actual parent.
But you'll know who it is.
You'll know who it is. But also like I said, I try to keep it more like subtle. I like to have the viewer kind of use their own imagination. So like while they're watching the movie and looking at the kid, might be like, you know, whose kid this might be.
Okay.
You know, and they'll think maybe it's part whatever's kid, or you know, like I like to give a lot to the viewer to like use their imagination on who it might be.
Nice.
Until the actual reveal at the end.
That's awesome. So where did the idea for Victim No More start? Like, how did you come up with this film's premise?
Well, I saw a couple of fan films on YouTube, Never Hike Alone, a couple of the others, and I was getting to a point where I really wanted to make a film, and my passion for Friday the 13th movies is so strong, especially amongst me and my friends and like the bond that we've created throughout the years regarding those movies. I mean, I just love this franchise so much that I said, you know what? I had this idea for a horror anthology that I was going to do. I just put that aside. I was like, let me do this. Let me get this film out of my system. So, and what I did is that I started thinking about all the things that I've always wanted to see in a Friday 13th film. And it's funny. And I said, all right, I think I'm going to go this way with it. And what's funny is that the plot came to me so quickly that I immediately like wrote it down and really haven't changed it. I mean, there's been like little additions to it and script changes and everything, but like the main brainstorm idea of it like came so quickly that it just kind of like and then I just looked at it and I was just like, how come nobody's like tried to do something like this? So it came pretty quickly. So I kind of made a list of things that like what I wanted to see in the last like 20 years. And some of the ideas of since I was a kid of what I wanted to see in a Friday 13th movie.
That's all.
And then a couple of things that I would want to see in a modern Friday the 13th movie too. Like, so it's like, so one thing I didn't want to ever write is my cell phone has no service in the woods.
Right.
You know, like if I hear that one more time in a modern movie, I'm gonna like snap. So it's like, all right, yeah, of course you don't have any service. I'm like, we live in a, you know, and especially where Friday 13th takes place, like if it truly does take place in like New Jersey area or like East Coast, I'm like, chances are you're gonna have phone service. So that's one thing that I'm like, all the characters have phone service, you know. So it's like, all right, that's something that's going in the script. So
nice.
If they get a chance to call the police, I'll give it to them. But
absolutely. Now, do we have when people are running, do we see people going up the stairs instead of out the door?
No. Oddly enough, about 90% of this movie takes place outdoors in the woods.
Nice.
So I'm just going straight up. And another thing about the outdoors I want to mention is that I'm so happy to live in the New York area because New York woods, I feel like, are a very specific thing.
Yeah.
New York, and I mean that in the tri-state area, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and everything. So, like, the woods look like the woods do in the first two Friday the 13th movies.
Yes, they do.
You know, like,
I'm from Pennsylvania. I know that. That's pretty much what it is.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. So when you see some of the fan films, and of course, I like these fan films, so don't get me wrong.
Right.
But when you see the fan films and they're shot in California or like down south or something, you're just like, well, those are giant pine trees. It looks like the redwood forest, and you know, it's just like, well, these don't look like Camp Crystal Lake woods.
Right.
You know, it's just like you know, so it's just like these look like the redwoods and like the woods in Oregon or something like that. I'm like, it kind of takes me out of it a little bit. I'm like, no, like Friday 13th is very specifically like an East Coast in the woods movie.
That's like watching Halloween and it's in Illinois, but you see palm trees all over the place.
Yeah. Or like that shot in Friday 13th Part 3 where they, you know, they're going to pick up Vera and you see like the palm trees in the background.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, when did palm trees come into New Jersey, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because the first movie is so obviously New Jersey because all the license plates and on the side of the truck, it says New Jersey. And it's like, and it feels very New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, tri-state area.
Absolutely. So, so get out your crystal ball. Are there any challenges or hardest parts that you see happening with Victim No More?
Oh my God, yes. There's definitely gonna be some challenges, and there have been a few bumps in the road. As you, as a filmmaker, you know, you're gonna have those bumps. You're gonna have like cast changes at the last second, and you got to be on your feet for, you know. I mean, the thing I'm dreading is with our set schedule right now. I am like praying that, you know, a tornado doesn't come and wipe out the set on day one, you know, or there's like a heavy rainstorm like on a certain day, and it's like, then we got to try to figure out where to reschedule. I mean, there's a couple of rain dates we have, but like, you know, like you don't know if all the cast and crew can like make it that day, and like that's my biggest thing. And especially we have like a huge massive day that we're shooting in August on one of the weekends, and it's like I'm anticipating 100-degree weather. You know, we're gonna have endless bottles of water around, and you know, and actual medics on set just in case like heat stroke comes into effect, or you know, and I'm just trying to take every precaution there is.
Right. Thankfully, COVID sort of lightened up a lot. And thankfully, with cicadas are kind of gone now. Because the cicadas, those are the things that a lot of filmmakers in this area were probably dreading, because they can really mess up your audio.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. And well, I mean, where I live on Long Island, there's also, I notice a lot of like birds,
Oh,
like
yeah.
loudly chirping that
Yep.
I'm just like,
Shut
you
up
guys,
up there.
yeah, you guys better not try this on July 17th when we start shooting this particular scene or this day,
Is that your first day of filming, July 17th?
July 12th is our first
Okay.
day of shooting.
Nice.
And it's going to be about a 10-day shoot
Nice.
altogether with a couple of pickup days here and there,
Right.
like little things. But it's basically, and it's spread out along like the weekends
Nice.
from mid-July to the end of August.
Yeah, that's kind of
I
how
try to make-
how 72 is as well. We start 17th and we end around the 21st, and I think like the 28th is like our big makeup rain day if we need to like kind of reschedule.
Yeah, I try to make it as convenient, even though I'm paying cast and crew.
Right.
I try to make it as convenient as possible for them. Like
Right.
most people work like a Monday through Friday
Yeah.
work schedule, so it's
And
like,
we
all
don't
right,
want
so
anybody
we'll shoot
getting
a lot of
fired.
Saturdays. Do what you say?
We don't want nobody getting fired.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
I think we only have like 2 days actually
Okay.
that are during the week that I'm like, well, you got to take off this day because
Nice.
it's the best day to
Yeah.
do this. And
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah. So
we're ready to go.
yeah, so you probably won't be able to really say any of this because I don't think any of it was released, but even a simple yes or no would work. Can we expect any Friday the 13th alumni in the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can. In character and also I can't really say. So, but I mean, there had been, this was actually one of the bumps that we had in the road.
Okay.
And we have to blame COVID for that, basically.
Okay.
But I would say, and in character and voice,
Okay.
you'll have, you'll have the alumni, but there'll be also cameos from other franchises and
nice.
films that we all love too.
Awesome.
That'll be a nice surprise to horror fans.
That's
and
awesome.
Fans of film in general.
Right.
So
I know Jill Whitlow from Night of the Creeps. She's involved with the film that's been released. That's been announced.
That's one of our
yep.
Our big fun celebrity cameos that we have, and
Nice.
So excited to have Jill involved in it.
Yeah.
She plays a psychologist.
Nice.
And I think she's going to be fantastic in it.
That's
and
awesome.
She's been wanting to like get back into acting more and getting more roles and everything. So I was just like, well, you got to be in my film because I'm good friends with her.
You're a big Night of the Creeps fan.
I am a huge Night of the Creeps fan.
Yeah.
If I do have a top 10 or top 5 movie, Night of the Creeps is definitely in it. It was definitely a movie that I grew up watching that I had so much fun watching it. It would be like that movie where, you get a new friend, and they're kind of into horror movies or weird movies, and it's just like, have you seen Night of the Creeps? Because you got to come over and watch Night of the Creeps.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of like on that subject, so what are your like current favorite horror films, and what horror films got you into being a horror fan?
My top 2 favorite horror films of all time will never change.
Okay.
And that is the original Dawn of the Dead, 1978, and Halloween, 78. Nice. Those 2 movies will just never change from my top 2. Not even horror films, like even top 2 like movies of all time. Well, I'm putting Star Wars aside right now, but
right.
But definitely horror movies. I'm trying to think. I would say around 6 or 7 years old, I started diving into like horror films and seeing them, and I would go to cousins' houses or friends' houses, and I would catch a piece of like Friday 13th, part 2 or 3,
Right.
and Halloween 1 and 2, and I would just start, and I would just feel like, what are these? These are what is going on? I'm intrigued by these, and and I wasn't so much like creeped out, but more fascinated.
Right.
The horror movies that have actually scared me are definitely not Halloween and Friday 13th.
Okay.
It's more like The Shining, and
Yeah.
imagery like that's in The Shining creeps me out more than
Nice.
the slasher movies.
Right.
Slasher Scotty. But
Yeah.
I would definitely say the Halloween and Friday 13th movies really got me into it. Also, actually, the first horror movie that really like creeped me out was Night of the Living Dead.
Nice.
My mom saw that I was getting into horror movies, and saw the Night of the Living Dead cassette tape, for $5 because it was anybody could sell those. So like, saw them at a grocery store or something like this. Like, you'll probably like this. So I watched it. I absolutely loved it. But that ending to me like stuck with me in a way where like, as like a 7-year-old kid, where I was just like, oh my God, this is not a happy ending. And it just showed me, oh, not all movies have happy endings, or they can like, get you in a way to make you feel, uneasy.
Yeah.
So I was like, so Night of the Living Dead and George Romero movies overall, George Romero and John Carpenter are my biggest influences.
Right.
Like, they're my favorite 2 directors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's funny because when did George Romero die? Do you remember?
A few years ago now.
I thought it was a few years ago because I remember it was around the time I first started out my podcast. I reached out to like his agent for an interview, and he was still alive. And then like a couple months ago or so, I finally heard back from the agent years later. I'm sorry, but George Romero's dead. I'm like, well, now he is.
Oh my God, how many emails did he have to go through to like respond?
I know, like I was like shocked, like I couldn't believe it. Like I'm like, well, yeah, now he's dead. Like I look at I woke up in the morning or whatever, and I got an email and it says podcast interview with George A. Romero. I'm like, isn't he dead? And I look at it, I'm like, oh wait, this is an interview, an email I sent back in like 2000, like what, 15 or 16 or whatever it was. Like, I was like, oh my God.
I want to say 2017.
He might have died in 2017 because I think it was a year before it was like a year before I emailed, and I'm like, well, that's not going to happen now.
Yeah.
And then I hear back, and like, I think it was it like the beginning of this year? I heard back, and I'm like, what? I'm like, wait, why are they asking me to interview him? Like when I seen just the subject title, and then I'm like, am I even that big enough to interview him? And then I look at it, I'm like, oh, this is an interview I sent like 5 or 6 or whatever years ago.
I don't know. It's pretty funny. Maybe he's just one of those guys that like. My biggest pet peeve in the world is people who don't respond at all.
Yeah.
Like at least say like if you're not interested in like communicating with me, or just say not interested at this time. Yeah. And I'll be totally satisfied. My biggest pet peeve is like no response. Like I understand if it like went into the junk mail or something like that in your email, and they just never saw it. Yeah, fine. Then you send the email again, or you call or whatever. But no response. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten no response, and
I hate that.
Even like trying to, because I booked Jill Whitlow at conventions, stuff like that, and it's like some conventions when they don't respond at all. I'm just like, come on, just say not interested at this time.
It takes what, like 5 seconds? You know what I mean? It's like it's not gonna take much time out of your day.
Exactly. So it's like, all right, cool. Maybe another time.
That one bothers me. And when it's like a celebrity that you want on your show because you know them from say Friday the 13th, but they're literally like doing nothing now. Like they're just like they're not relevant in the limelight, and then they ask you to pay them $500 fee, like to have them on your show. Yeah, I had somebody from Friday the 13th, John Furry from Part 2.
Yeah.
It wasn't John Furry himself. It was his agent that responded back and said that he requests a $500 fee for a 30-minute interview. I'm like, yeah, that's not happening.
What?
Yeah. Now I don't know if this is the agent just trying to pull a fast one to, enhance his pocketbook, or if that was really John Furry's fee. But I noticed that I got agents that do that. For example, Tuesday night, I got an agent that says that she would like to be compensated. But I messaged Tuesday night through Facebook, and she was more than happy to do it for nothing. So I think a lot of
Sometimes
it
that's
is,
the way to go. Like if you
yeah,
could, because I've met and
yeah,
John Fury a couple of times, and
yeah.
he's always been very kind of cool and laid back and everything.
Yeah, I didn't think that would be his type of way, because and if you wanted a fee,
I don't think
no
so.
matter the reason, I don't see it being that much.
I mean, I'm going to be hanging out with him
Okay.
in August.
Okay.
So I'm going to at Monster Mania Con. Actually,
Okay.
I'm going to be there and be helping out.
Yeah.
Another one of my very good buddies.
Nice.
There, but I'll probably wind up hanging out with John, and if it's in the air, casual hanging out and everything, I'll just be like, do you charge for interviews?
Yeah, like just let
I'll
me
bring
know
it
what
up.
he says. I think I still have the email.
A friend of mine wants to do an interview with you for like a half hour or 40 minutes, and apparently your agent said you charge or something.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll see what he says.
Yeah, let me know what he says, because I might still have the interview. I think I do, because I don't think I get rid of those emails in case I do come across the celebrity and I tell them, they're like, "Are you serious?" I'll like screenshot it and show them. It'd be like, "Yeah, this is what he says," because like I know personally, I would never charge for an interview, and I don't care how big I am, I would never charge for an interview because it's free publicity. It's like, and then if my agent is trying to like get money out of an interviewer because for whatever reason, I know I would be pissed, and I wouldn't want that person to represent me.
Right. Exactly. It's so bizarre. Just
I had another company. They represent a lot of people, especially the people from Part 2. I forget the name of the place. And I think this might be the same people that represent John Furry. I'm not sure, but I sent them all a bunch of emails for like different people, and they said they would like $100 per person. I think it was like United Talent Management or something like that.
I don't know.
It's on IMDb. I know it's under Laura Marie Taylor and maybe Amy Steele.
All right. Well, I'm friends with
Pennsylvania.
I'm friends with the person that manages a couple of those people.
Okay.
So I could have I could have a talk with them too.
Yeah, definitely. Let me know, and I'll be honored to have them on as well. But I was like shocked, like $100 for each one. I'm like, what? Like somebody's trying not to go out of their way to reach out to like maybe 10 people that I reached out to or whatever. Like to try.
Well, I mean, I could see it's their business, their management business. Yeah. Like, I mean, obviously they took a hit because of COVID in the last year or so. So maybe it's their way of just trying to make up for like, all that money that they lost over the, it's like their careers,
Right.
So,
exactly.
So I kind of get it, but
like for a 30-minute interview and it's given like free publicity and like, I like my last question, which I'll be asking you, was like, promoting anything you want to promote, social media or whatever. So it's like
more.
Yeah, exactly. So like is promoting your project. So it's like, take time out of your schedule type of thing.
Yeah.
But we know Victim No More is, a Friday the 13th related type of film. It is a fan film. So are there any differences between this film and say the Friday the 13th franchise? And if so, what are they?
Ooh, that's a hefty question. That's a lot. I guess, am I comparing it to just Friday the 13th overall? The franchise?
Yeah, I would say overall, like basically, Friday the 13th premise. A mom avenging her son kills a bunch of camp counselors to stop the camp opening. She dies. Her son is really not dead. He kills a bunch of camp counselors that have sex, do drugs, and all that stuff on his territory.
Right. There are definitely a few differences.
Okay.
And as much of a story I can tell in like it's going to be 40 to 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
So we're kind of talking like Never Hike Alone territory. So, I mean, if it was feature length, you would see it's a full-on Friday the 13th movie.
Right.
But we had to keep the story, the tale, like to a tight, condensed kind of story. But differences. I think there's more of a dramatic point of view on this because of the story itself about kind of overcoming trauma and dealing with trauma and how it affects your children's lives. And, there's kind of like that dramatic angle to it.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it'll have characters talking about the Jason legend and stuff like that. And so, like, in that sense, that part of the story is very much like the Friday the 13th movies.
Okay.
You're going to have the characters like, going for a hike in the woods and discussing the Jason, legend and, that, once in a, teasing each other about once in a while, Jason pops up and, and disappears again and, that kind of thing. I mean, like I said, they'll definitely be the references to many of the films. Actually, it's pretty funny that the last time I went through the script, and I actually recently just watched all 12 of the movies because of the box set.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much I reference. I mean, there's subtle references, but like, I didn't realize I referenced basically every single one of those 12 movies.
Right.
Just with like little things here and there. I'm just like, well, this shot right here is gonna be like from part 2, like a certain angle. And this line right here is kind of like the line in another movie. And it's just like, oh my God. But it just shows how much it's in my blood that there are things in the script that I didn't realize are from the movies until I rewatched them. And I was like, oh my God. And there were some things in there that I'm just like, well, that's a little too on the nose. I got to change that a little bit. A fan out there might be like, I mean, you're going to have fans' opinions no matter what. I mean, there's fans that won't even watch the fan films because it's not real.
Yeah.
It's not a real Friday the 13th movie. And of course, being horror fans or just genre fans overall, we're very picky about what we like and don't like. One thing, like I could say, and even I'm like picky about things that I see in the fan films that I just don't want to do in mine. Or it helps me kind of say like, well, I didn't care for that much in this fan film, so I'm not going to do that with mine. And of course, there's going to be people that watch mine and say, I didn't like what he did there. And I'm like, that's, terrible. I'm like, I'm not going to do that in mine when I make mine. It's going to be this cycle that goes on forever. Like one example is that I wasn't crazy about, it seems like the majority of the fan films have the style of Jason from the 2009 reboot. Yeah. Or like the Freddy versus Jason. Like it seems like I don't know if in their way of thinking is like, are they trying to continue the franchise from that point kind of from those last 2 movies, or do they just really love that look? Right. But I wasn't a big fan of like Jason wearing the jacket. Yeah. Like just that specific look. So I was like, well, I'm not gonna do Jason in the jacket, it's a look that I'm just like, well, now every fan film that comes out, not everyone, but a lot of them, they'll like have that Jason in the jacket look. Like,
I've always been a fan of Jason from part 3, part 4.
Yeah. Me too. Like anywhere between those first 7 movies, like I kind of like, I like all those looks. All those looks to me are like, fun. So obviously I'm saying right here and now that I'm kind of gravitating towards like one of those looks, or maybe a couple of those looks blended in one,
Nice.
So
that'd be awesome. That'd be a totally unique style.
Yeah, well, I could definitely say this. It's a Jason look we have not seen before.
Okay.
and that is because I'm blending a few of the looks.
Nice. I like that idea.
So that's one thing I could say that
Right.
is different with my film than a lot of the other films.
Awesome.
Something else. Actually, there's no smoking weed in the movie. So there's no doing drugs.
Nice.
But there really wasn't any, the part 6 didn't have any drugs. Actually, part 6 didn't have any nudity or drugs.
Yeah.
And that's looked to be like one of the top, 3 or 5 Friday 13th movies. Like, people love part 6. And it's like, and that also is one thing I kept in mind, that when I was brainstorming for Victim No More, I thought, I'm like, it's funny how much people love the, those stereotypes and things that are in the Friday 13th movies, or what they think they love in those movies. Like, oh, you have sex, the nudity, and the doing drugs and stuff like that. You have those, you die and everything. And certainly there's a lot of that in the franchise. But part 6 is so highly regarded as one of the best ones to many fans. And it doesn't have it has sex. But like, it doesn't have any. It doesn't have any nudity or like drugs, I don't think.
Right. They asked Darcy DeMoss to do it topless, but she already signed her contract, and it was already too late for her to put that in an agreement for, I guess.
That's right.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it would have changed the view of the entire movie anyway.
I don't think so either. I mean, the movie was really good. Like, I mean, we didn't need, to see a topless woman just to get, like, to be like, oh, this is so much better now. Like, it wouldn't have really changed anything. The only thing it would have changed is that it wouldn't be the only Friday the 13th without nudity for the most
right. Part. And they also, like, they definitely, like, do their own thing in that movie, which I really enjoy. I mean, part 6 to me growing up was like my favorite one. I love part 6. Part 4 and 6 are my favorite ones.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of, like, Jason walking around during the day, like with the paintball people and stuff like that. It's like fun. It's like, oh my God, look at Jason just casually walking around during the day. I love that. So that's something else I kind of kept in mind. I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna have that in the script,
Nice.
But and that's the thing, and I've talked about it on, like, Greg's podcast and a couple of other interviews and stuff, that I love. One of the things I do love about the franchise is that everybody has a completely different ranking of the Friday 13th movies, where there's enough of them in the series to be like, you can grab 5 or 10 fans and they'll give you a completely different, like, ranking of their favorites to least favorites. And ones that they absolutely hate could be somebody else's favorite one. Like, I love that about the Friday.
Like,
my
top three would be, and a lot of people don't always argue, and Greg is one of them that always argues, and you'll know this from your interview, but Greg always argues, I have number 3 in my top 3. At number 3 is Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood.
Yeah, and Greg is not a big fan of that movie. He's not a big fan of it,
but I absolutely love that movie. And I think a reason why is because that was the very first horror film I've ever saw. So it's got that, like, that got me into the franchise and into horror. So that got me, like, my start. So it's sentimental.
There's that nostalgic feeling. I have very nostalgic feelings for, and this is going to happen with, like, all movies that you grew up with. So, it doesn't mean that a lot of those movies are good. It just means that it touched you in a way where you have strong feelings about it. Like Jason Takes Manhattan, it's probably my least favorite in the franchise, but I still watch it every year.
I do too.
The things that bother me about it still bother me, but I just laugh about them. And there's things that I just absolutely hate in part 8, but I have such a strong feeling towards that movie because it was a movie my mom and I saw in the theater, and we snuck into the theater. We went to go see something else. I think it was Dream a Little Dream,
nice.
if I'm remembering correctly. And then after the movie, she was like, she's like, let's go sneak into Jason Takes Manhattan. I'm like, do you really want to? Yeah. Yes, of course. And we snuck into the movie, and we only missed like the first 5 minutes. So we just watched the entire movie, and it was just
Right.
like, oh, this is so great. So I'm always going to have that memory attached to the movie.
Right.
So it means something to me in
Absolutely.
that regards, not just it being the next installment in the Friday 13 movie.
Absolutely.
But like my top three. Well, what's the rest of your other? What's your
the other two? Is part 2 and part 4. Yep.
I think you're gonna like Victim No More.
Yep. I love like almost every night before bed. If I'm not having on like Friends or King of Queens or something like that, if I'm not in the mood for like a sitcom or whatever, I have it all taped. I have the Scream Factory Blu-ray as well, but the Blu-ray's in this room, not in my bedroom. But I always watch either part 3 or part 4 before bed every night almost. If I'm not watching the sitcom, I'll put those on because I love part 3. Like that one. That one's also I would say my top 5. But I always watch part 3 or part 4 before bed all the time. I don't know why I don't watch part 7 or part 2 before bed. I don't know why, but like part 3 or part 4 are my I can go to sleep to this and have a good, especially when it's thunderstorming at night and the lights are off and I go to sleep, and I'll put one of those on my DVR and I'll watch it. Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I mean, there's definitely references for part 2, 4, and 7 in Victim No More.
Nice.
That's without a doubt, and you'll know as soon as you see it.
Yeah.
But my top 3 is like 4, 6, 2.
Nice.
Like,
yeah.
And any, 4, 6, 2. It would be when I was a kid. It was 6, 4, 2.
Right.
But now part 4 turned out to be my favorite one.
Right. Yeah. Like if you watch my Friday the 13th rankings on my YouTube channel, like it's probably not like the top 3 I told you might not even be in the top 3 on that video because I didn't rank the video based on my personal preferences. I ranked them based on story, body count, blood and gore. Like I ranked them on those type of aspects, not on what I like at this number or at that number. Like I wrote the top, like my top, whatever it was, top 12 movies, like was literally based on the story of the movie, how Jason is, the deaths, like things like that. So like my number 1, I'm pretty sure I still put is part 4 because I think part 4 has amazing character development. Like it really, I thought the character development in that was amazing. Like it really was, and the deaths were even brutal. And Ted White was amazing as Jason. Like it just was good.
Yeah, and that's another thing too that I wanted to put into my story because I looked at part 4 and I say, you know what? So a bunch of these characters are so likable.
Yeah.
Like, even though like Teddy and Jimbo are kind of like jerky guys, like they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
And there's like a sweetness to some of the with like Jimbo and like a couple of the other characters. So I kind of wanted to bring that into my script too with a couple of the characters. I was just like, you know what, let me make these characters like real, talking about real life things, and make them just likable, not just like almost what I feel like the later Friday 13th movies do. And I love those movies too.
Yeah.
But like the later Friday 13th movies almost feel like they're doing a parody on like
they're like all cliche
on what you expect from characters. Like or not only that, but like the guy who's an asshole, like being like a big time asshole, like just being exaggerated.
Yes.
And the guy who like needs to smoke that weed or we're not gonna have fun, like they become like a parody almost in like, so it's kind of like I wanted to, and then you're wondering also like, would these people like hang out with each other? Like you don't even like see how they're even friends,
like part 7 is a very good example of that. Part 7, like all these people at this party how are they friends? Melissa, the snobby rich bitch,
who the hell would be friends with her?
Like you have like the African American couple, like kind of like, I guess you could say, quote unquote, without being racist, the outcasts, because really like you don't see them until like halfway to the movie, and they have like 3 scenes in the entire movie. So it's like, are they even like, were they late late to the party? Are they
Well,
really friends? Like, you have that Maddie the nerd. You have Robin, like the prom queen type of thing. You have Russell, the rich guy that he's only there because he owns the freaking cabin.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah, the rich guy with the sweater tied around.
Yes.
But I think that was a case of actually I don't mind it so much in that movie because
Right.
I think it's a case of they were the birthday boys' friends.
Good point.
And as we all know, we all have groups of friends that
Yep.
don't always intermingle. So
Good point.
because it was Michael's birthday,
They were
it's
all
like they
there.
gathered these people
Yeah.
that don't. Yeah. So
That's a
it's
good
like, all
point.
right, well,
We can let that
I
slide.
forgive it for that. What's
Yeah.
up?
We can let that slide.
We'll let it slide. We'll let it slide.
Yeah.
But I mean, the ones that seem like long-term friends,
Right.
like, you know, just like, why are these people hanging out?
Right.
And then there's always like the two friends that like are just nasty to each other and they're fighting about stupid stuff. And I'm like, well, I don't
especially
know.
in part
I don't
8.
really do that with my friends.
Right, especially in part 8, because like Tamara, the prom queen, and Kelly Hu's character Eva, like, why are they friends? Like, I get it, but like Eva didn't want to do a lot of the stuff that Tamara wanted to do, pushing Rainey into the waters, doing the coke or whatever it was. Like,
yeah, I mean, maybe Kelly Hu's character was insecure and didn't have any other friends. So
right, she was.
So I think it was an idea of, say, we're getting deep into Friday 13th now in characters, but I think it was a case of Tamara is, the popular prom queen girl,
right. And Eva wanted to be that.
She can control Kelly Hu.
Good point.
So she has a dominance thing, as you can see when she
point.
tries to flirt with the teacher and everything.
That's a good point. Good point.
So it's a dominating. See, I can get into the psychology of
we have to have we definitely have to have, like, obviously outside the interview, but have like a really in-depth conversation about this Friday the 13th stuff. And if you haven't spoke to Troy Elke, oh my God, he was on my show. He was my longest interview, like 2.5 hours, but he went in depth with the theories that he has of Friday the 13th from 1 through 12 and what all the characters are doing nowadays. Like, he was really
I love that. I love that. That's great.
It was my longest interview, but and I never had an interview like over 2 hours for sure. Most of my interviews like are between 30 minutes, 40 minutes, maybe 50 to an hour at the most. But
I think we're coming up on an hour now, maybe.
I think so.
But
But the next question
go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. The next question I do have, are you going to be filming at a summer camp?
We will be filming at a camp that is no longer running.
Okay.
This was one of the bumps in the road that we had throughout pre-production was, and again, it had something to do with what we talked about earlier about the people not responding to me.
Okay.
So, at first, before COVID, they were all about it. And I actually talked to them on the phone and they said, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, we'll use these great derelict cabins that we have and, it shouldn't be a problem. And then COVID hit and then I couldn't get in touch with them. So I was like, all right, well, maybe they're not at the campsite or at the office where you can contact them. So I was like, all right, I'll let it go for a few months. Plus I had to postpone the entire project an entire year.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, but they have been so awful in responding that, I mean, everything's fine now, but for like almost a year, they were impossible in just responding to an email. Many emails. I started sending them like weekly, just like resending. And they just would not respond. So we figured out a way around that. And we got in touch with them, and now everything's good to go.
Awesome.
Because those cabins were so beautifully destroyed, and the way they look, I'm like, I need to use these cabins.
Yeah.
So I didn't care like what it was going to be. Like if it turned out to be straight up guerrilla style, just showing up during the week at some point and just shooting it, that's how it was going to be. So
Yeah.
I needed to use this location.
Absolutely.
Because, and then I had like a backup, idea that I was going to use. I was going to try to use somebody's barn or something.
Yeah.
And so the characters would have come across that.
Right.
But it just would not have the same effect as those cabins.
Yeah.
And again, they look like East Coast in the woods of New York cabins,
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I really got to use these.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So the last question I got for you, I'm going to throw it into a two-parter.
Oh my God! Last question. I could talk for another hour.
I know you can.
Well, let me try to backtrack to make sure I didn't forget anything.
Yep.
But I don't know. But go ahead.
Last question I got for you. So do you have an anticipated release date for Victim No More, and where can the listening and viewing audience view it once it's released? And outside of Victim No More, any other projects that you have in the works or social medias that you would like to plug?
Nothing else that I'm going to be working on.
Okay.
Just this film, just Victim No More, and you could find us on Instagram at VNM_2020, which is when the original release was supposed to be. And Facebook, you can find us on Facebook, Friday 13th. No, it doesn't say Friday 13th fan film. It's Victim. If you type in Victim No More, you'll see the
awesome.
The teaser poster.
Awesome. And
you'll be able to find it. There is another Victim No More website on Facebook that's like a survivors group or something, but which this movie kind of discusses that, because Robbie's parents are survivors, so it does have something to do with that. Awesome. But nothing else I'm promoting. The only thing I would promote when this is successful. I'm not saying if this is successful, because I think it definitely will be, because of who I have involved in it with the cameos and everything, of course.
Awesome.
But I think it'll just turn out really well.
Yeah.
And it'll, it's going to get a lot of views on YouTube and everything. So when it is successful, we will have merchandise and stuff, where I'm actually having my website creator coming over in a little bit, in about an hour, and we're going to work on the website and everything. And that should be up probably at the end of the summer. Definitely when we premiere it. Yeah. Because it'll be on YouTube, it'll be on Vimeo, and it'll be on the website. That's where we're going to premiere it. And expect that, I think, mid-November, sometime in November. Okay. I was going to say November 13th, but
that was last year.
Yeah, that was last year. Let's say in November sometime is the goal.
So we can't expect it to be done and released by August 13th. Come on.
Oh, I so wish. That would be an amazing. Yeah, it's the only. Right, December doesn't have a Friday 13th, does it?
I don't
know.
I can quick check.
I mean, because if that's the case, then I would push it off to December 13th. But I don't want to push it off any longer than it needs to be.
It does not.
All right, so then we're still going to shoot for November when it's done and premiere. We will premiere it at a couple of theaters for family and friends.
Yep. The next Friday the 13th after August is May of next year.
Yeah, I'm not waiting that long. It's funny because when I started promoting the movie, it was a 40th anniversary love letter to the series. And you could still see that written here and there, and on the Indiegogo site and on the Facebook page. You could see it says 40th anniversary love letter. Right. And, that was supposed to be for last year. Right. Now it's just a love letter to part 2 also. Yeah. So because of being now. So, but if I was going to promote something, I would promote that when this is successful, I do have 2 sequel ideas. Okay. That will be a continuation, but also different than this one. Awesome. And I wouldn't go past 3. It would just be a trilogy of films. And I can't say if they would still also be short films. Yeah. But most likely.
Okay.
The tales that I want to tell are very, small,
Awesome.
but relevant.
Yes.
So, and Friday 13 fans, I think, will really
awesome
love what I'm going to be doing.
Yes.
I hope, at least I hope to be, because you can never predict fans and what they
Right.
like. Just like, you love part 7.
Yep.
Millions of fans love part 7, but like Greg doesn't like part 7,
Right.
or like many of my fans like hate part 7. So it's
Yep.
like, so you're gonna have like that 50-50
Yep.
of the fans,
Absolutely.
liking. So I always go back to that. I love that those movies are just ranking.
Awesome. Yeah.
The ranking is out of control.
Yeah.
As opposed to like Halloween, where everybody loves the first one. That's just the best.
Yeah.
And then it goes off into a different direction after that.
Absolutely.
Same
and
with
I can't
Nightmare on
wait
Elm
to
Street.
see it. I definitely can't wait to see it. But I do thank you for joining me, Bobby. I do have to unfortunately wrap it up. I have 15 minutes to get ready because I have to be on set at 1 o'clock to film, and it's 11 o'clock now, and it's about an hour and a half drive and all that. But I do thank you so much for joining me. It was I met you in person. You're a super cool guy in person.
Thank you for having me.
Yep, and I'm glad that you can make time for this interview. I truly appreciate it, and I absolutely look forward to seeing Victim No More.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and we'll definitely do this again after the film is released. And I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear all the fans' thoughts.
Absolutely, I would love to be on. Have you on again. Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yep. You have a great rest of your day.
You too. Take care. Bye.